Hi, everybody, and welcome to CPG Insiders. I'm your host, Mark Young, with my co-host and vice president
Ooh,
of Jekyll Hyde Labs,
sounds so fancy.
Justin Gerard. Well, it is. I mean, come on, man. You worked hard to get there and to earn that,
I appreciate it.
and you do a great job for your clients. You care about your clients, and you do a good job for them. And as everybody does. I mean, everybody in
Absolutely.
our operation is focused on people's success. We really, really want to see people succeed.
It's
Uh,
it's the greatest gift we get in this business.
It is fun, isn't it? Isn't it
It
fun to
is.
pull out an IRI report and see that your client just climbed to number 4 or something?
Oh man, and then get the chance to have that conversation with them and break it down and show them just how impactful that success really is, even just beyond their own numbers and like
Hmm.
what they're doing. Their impact they're making. I mean, it's the most rewarding part of this of what we get to do.
It is fun.
Yeah.
So, folks, we're going to cover something. We're going to do a 3-part show. And what I mean by that is there's going to be 3 episodes that are going to be tied together, part 1, 2, and 3. These are the 26 unbreakable rules for success in mass retail.
Hmm.
And I'll give you a little history on this. Justin gets credit for this. He recently came to me and said, "What's your rules for retail for CPG?" And I've talked about them, but I've never put them all down. So
Yeah.
Justin's kind of the guy that got me to sit down and say, "Okay, what are the things? What are the things that are true? What are the
Yes.
things that always remain true?"
And we've been doing this for what, 30 years now?
Right. So what are the things that have not changed? I mean,
Right.
this is just these are truisms. And the other challenge to this was, what are the things that we've experienced that we know when people violate it, they fail or they struggle?
Yes. Right.
Because you can struggle and not fail. Sometimes you can overcome a failure, and sometimes you cannot overcome the failure. So some of these, I'm going to tell you right now, some of these are absolute critical rules that are life and death rules for your
Mhm.
company and for your product.
100%.
So we broke them into 3 categories. Justin broke them up. One is the product category. So we're going to talk about what does your thing need to
Yes.
have. The second one is investment strategies, business strategies. How do you make it happen? The third one is going to be about mindset, and that is, it's you.
Yeah.
Are you ready to win?
Are you and your people too? Because you got to have the whole team thinking and acting in the exact same ways. If you don't, it's going to break down.
Yep. So let's start with the product rules. You ready?
I'm ready to go.
Number 1, don't make products you don't believe in. And we've seen
This
it.
this is huge. This is huge. How many times have we seen a product being presented to us and it was presented to us in a way, for lack of a better term, was, well, I saw a way just to make money, and in this, I think I can make money doing this. We're like, well, okay,
Right. I saw a bunch of people on Amazon were selling this, so I
yeah,
decided I could make one too.
yeah, and I feel like I can make some money doing it, so that's why I did it.
Or my
Yeah,
neighbor came up with this, and and I figured out how to do it.
right.
So when it's here's the reason that's important. The reason it's important is because a couple things. One, when you meet with a buyer, when you meet with investors, when you meet with everybody, your enthusiasm and your belief is contagious.
Yes.
And you can't fake that.
Mm-mm.
So if you come in and present a product to me and it's like, well, it does this and it does that and so on and so forth, I'm probably going to have as much enthusiasm for it as you're expressing.
Absolutely. If there's
As-
no passion, then why would anybody else, the buyer, the customers, right? Why would anybody have passion for your product if you who created it have zero passion?
Here's the other reason. The other reason is simply this. This is a tough business.
Hmm.
fortunes are made. I mean, massive fortunes are made.
Yes.
There are few other industries. I'm going to tell you the industries that I see that where people go from zero to massive wealth are CPG, construction and real estate, and the tech world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But these are the industries where we see somebody started 5 years ago with a tube of goo, and 5 years later they got a $400 million check for their company.
Right. Right.
So, not very many industries have these opportunities, but the bigger the reward, the bigger the risk, the bigger the effort.
Mm-hmm.
There is a direct correlation between risk and reward and effort and reward. So when we talk about making things you believe in, there's going to be tough times. And if you're not dedicated to the idea that my thing is going to improve the lives of other people, and I'm on a mission to solve a human problem, then you're kind of, I mean, in many cases, kind of fold up like a cheap card table at that point.
Well, yeah. I mean, just think about in your own life. How many hard times have you come over, let's say outside of business, just life, right? And look back on those and think, where are the ones that I was able to rise to the occasion, and where were the ones that I folded? And usually it comes back to the same concept that I had a belief, I had a passion that helped me overcome the challenges that were in front of me. It's the same for your business.
My friend Joe Polish, I think, has a perfect way to describe this.
Mm.
Joe's way to describe this is don't say no all the time
Mm.
and never say yes to a product or yes to a new business until you're ready to say hell yes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
And that's Joe's approach. You don't want a yes. You want a hell yes. This is
Yeah,
amazing. This is my thing. This is my
right,
product.
right. You know, because again, you have to. We talk about this from a advertising perspective. Humans are feeling animals that think, right? So if the way you've approached your product is, well, rationally, I think this, and I think this, and I think this, you're missing the point. You're missing the point that in order to invoke change, whether it's the buyer, whether it's your end customer, you have to make them feel something. And if you don't feel anything for your product, nobody else is.
Yeah, not likely. Our next rule, make products that solve human problems. This seems obvious, but it's not.
It's not.
You and I met with some people recently
Yes.
who have made a big product.
Yeah.
Big,
It's
complicated, all-encompassing, giant Swiss Army knife product.
right. It's innovative. Like it can do all these things, right?
Because they've invoked all kinds of wonderful technology.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment, they don't actually know what the human problem is they're trying to solve.
Right. Right.
Because I made this thing because we have access to 10 different pieces of technology and we put them all together and look how amazing it is. And you and I said, okay, what's the problem you're trying to solve? And well, we don't know.
Right. If you can't meet the human need, the baseline need of the person, then any other elements are null and void. That's step one.
And every product needs to solve a problem.
Yeah. Exactly.
Coca-Cola solves a problem.
Mm-hmm.
A bottle of wine solves a problem.
Right.
Might not be the right solution, but it solves a problem.
it sells few, right?
But let's go to a bottle of wine. Let's look at that for a minute. You'd say, well, that's frivolous. A bottle of wine's frivolous. It doesn't solve a human problem. Actually, it does.
Mm-hmm.
The problem may be I want to have a nice, relaxing dinner with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that means I'm trying to solve something.
Yes.
It could be I'm going to Justin's house and I want to take a gift because
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Justin's house for dinner and I want to show up with a nice gift. So the bottle of wine just solved that problem.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's been helping, white people dance for years.
There you go. Solves another problem. So that's the next one. Make products that solve human problems. By the way, we'll make this list available.
Yeah.
Number 3, never try to be everything to everyone.
It's critical.
Well, we see this all the time. So people will come in and, well, what have you created? I created this new body lotion.
Right.
Well, who's your demo target? Everybody with skin.
Yeah. Everyone's got skin, so everyone can use it.
No, everyone with skin is not the target market.
No.
And let me give you. I'm going to try to make an example of this. A car is a solution for everyone who wants transportation and freedom to go about their business, right?
Right. So you solved it. You solved the problem.
So the problem is a car solves a transportation problem.
Yep.
That means all people that have a personal transportation need are a viable customer for a car. For the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's fair.
Unless they live in a city or something.
Right. It's fair.
Okay. Now, does that mean that all people who have needs for transportation have a need and desire for a pickup?
No.
A pickup is a car. It is transportation. I personally drive a pickup like people drive a car, right?
Right. Right.
I drive into work just like you drive a SUV and other people drive a car. But not all people who want a car want a pickup.
No. And I mean, look at some areas. A pickup won't even fit down some streets.
Not all people who want a pickup want a $100,000 all-terrain off-road pickup.
Right. Right.
Not all people who want a car that goes 200 miles an hour. Not all people who want a car that looks like a Rolls Royce.
Mm-hmm.
So even though a car solves a problem, all the various iterations of cars are solving different problems.
For different people. Yes.
I'll use this one because we just mentioned Joe Polish. It's funny. Joe Polish literally sent me a text over the weekend asking me to describe this to him.
Okay.
And I described it to him before. And it is the difference between Ferrari, Lamborghini, and McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
So here are 3 cars that are all in the $300 to $3 million price range. You would assume those 3 cars are competitive. You would assume somebody shopping for a McLaren probably goes and visits a Lambo dealer and probably visits a Ferrari dealer and then visits a McLaren dealer and then decides which one he wants to get because he's obviously got money to afford to buy any of them.
Right.
Now, here's the reality. Reality is people who go to Ferrari, Lambo, and McLaren dealers rarely go to the other brand store. And if they do, they kind of just go in to kick the tires and see what the other side's doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not shopping.
Right.
They're not real buyers.
Right.
And here's why. Statistically, we know that Ferrari owners buy their vehicle to belong. So I know a lot of people with Ferraris, they rarely ever take them out of their garage.
Yeah, because doesn't Ferrari make you almost have to sign up for the club before you can even buy the car?
Well, you can't buy a new one as your first.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
You have to buy a used Ferrari before you're allowed to buy a new one. But most people that buy Ferraris put them in the garage. They never take them out. It's not unusual to see a 6-year-old Ferrari with 2,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And they take them out on special occasions, and they take them out to go to the club. So statistically, a first-time Ferrari buyer will join the local Ferrari club within 30 days of purchase.
Wow.
And not only do they join the club, but there's a 70% chance, 70+% chance that the Ferrari they bought is red. Because that's what says Ferrari.
It's interesting.
It's literally called Ferrari Red.
Red, yeah.
Okay. So that person buys to belong to an elite club. Buying a Ferrari is like joining Brentwood Country Club.
Right.
You're now part of an elite group of people who gather every 2 to 4 weeks and hobnob and snob about their cars with each other. But more importantly, you're hanging around with other people who can buy $300 to $2 million cars, which means these are other rich people like you, and it's a great networking opportunity.
Yep.
Okay. Now let's go to Lamborghini. Lamborghinis are most likely to come in orange, lime green,
Yeah.
lemon yellow, matte finish purple,
Right. Bold colors.
big, giant, extreme, you must look at me colors.
Right. If I'm on the street, nobody is not going to see me.
And when you look at Lamborghinis, they have the hardest edges and the most exotic body style. They almost look like stealth fighters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really sharp corners, really pinpointed noses. Now, when we look at that buyer, that's the youngest of the three brands.
Hmm.
So anybody who's like a young tech guy, they lean toward Lamborghini in some outrageous color. And Lambo owners are most likely to be registered to an urban address, like a downtown address. They're more likely to live in a condo,
Hmm.
where the Ferrari owner is more likely to live in the suburbs
Hmm.
in a home.
Hmm.
Because the Ferrari owner is more likely to be married with adult kids. The Lambo owner is probably single.
Yeah. It's a symbol for the world to them.
Yes, look at me, I've arrived.
Right.
Then we have McLaren. McLaren owners are more likely, like the Ferrari owner, the McLaren owner is more likely to live in the suburbs with a house.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the key. The McLaren owner is the person who will put the most miles on the car. So a McLaren owner will drive the McLaren thousands of miles more than the Lambo driver or the Ferrari driver.
Because it's about the car.
It's about the car.
Yeah.
And the McLaren driver is most likely to take it to a track day, to put it on a racetrack to see what it can do.
Yeah.
Because McLaren is, of the three cars, McLaren is the best performer as a rule.
Okay.
As a rule, it's the best handling and the fastest of the three. Now, keep in mind, when we're saying fastest of the three, we're talking all 220 mile plus cars. But the McLaren might run the quarter mile in 9.6 seconds, and the Lamborghini runs it in 10.1 seconds.
Right.
For the average person, both just seem extremely frightening.
Right. Right. It doesn't mean anything to me.
But for a car enthusiast, that means something. So a McLaren buyer is more likely to be what we'll say is a real car guy, a hardcore, I love driving cars type of person. So as you can see, here's three cars that you could put on a shelf. You could take these three cars and put them on a shelf, and you would say they all compete with each other. They don't.
They don't.
They don't compete with each other.
Completely different audiences.
Completely different audience. Now, as you know, and I will admit, I'm a McLaren guy.
Huh. Who knew?
Must be the McLaren shirt I'm wearing. Here's the thing. I have been in a Ferrari dealership probably 2 times in my life, just to go in and see what they look like.
Yeah.
And probably been in 2 or 3 Lambo dealerships. And most of the time when I'm in a Lambo dealership, it's because the Lambo dealership and the McLaren dealership are owned by the same people and they're next door to each other.
Yeah. So let's go take a look. Why not?
So I'm in the McLaren store and it's like, let's walk, I only got to walk 20 more feet and I'll see what Lambo's doing.
Yeah.
And in Detroit, it's actually the Lambo dealer and all these dealers are actually in just one long building. And they just each have a piece of the showroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like here in Florida where I'm at right now. McLaren is attached in the same building as Aston Martin, Rolls-Royce, and Bentley. Mm-hmm. So you're in the dealership, you're getting your car fixed. Of course, you're going to walk around and look at everything else in the store, and they're all magnificent cars.
Yeah.
But I have no interest, honestly. I have no interest in looking at Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
No. And again, to your point, the reason why all of these different brands have been successful is because they've established themselves, their products, their brand identity, and they've focused on a particular audience, and they're okay with that. They're saying, "Yep, this is who we're talking to, no matter the size." Obviously, when you're talking about the size of the ticket items that they're selling, and they're extremely successful doing it.
So getting back to that rule, that is to never try to be everything to everyone. Nobody buys a Swiss Army knife because the fork works so well.
Mm-hmm.
Or I really need a spoon, so I'm going to buy a Swiss Army knife.
Yes.
You might buy a Swiss Army knife because I'm going to go on a camping trip, or you bought one because you thought it makes a good gift for somebody. But rarely does anybody carry a big, bulky, large Swiss Army knife with all the tools in it because it doesn't do anything well.
Right.
It does 50 things halfway.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is you want to have a product that talks to a specific group of people. Don't be the product that is for joint pain, muscle sprains,
Right.
Workout pain, and arthritis.
Right.
Be the product that's for one of those things.
Right. We've talked about this so many times with clients in the past. If in America now, rounding numbers, right, there's 360 million people, rounding. If you find out that there are 10 million that are passionate about your product, what it does, and continue to buy it, do the math if the price of your product's $20. It's a really great business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll give you an example. An example would be, I'm going to compare Kmart to Lululemon.
Mm.
Lululemon.
For all you people, you may not remember Kmart. Hopefully you do.
So Kmart, big chain of stores. Everybody knew Kmart. It was like Target without the panache.
The blue light special, I remember.
They carried pretty much all the same product as Target. The problem was Kmart meant nothing to anyone,
Mm-hmm.
and people didn't want to admit they shopped there.
Yep.
But they had everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now you look at a Lululemon. Well, Lululemon started out doing what? Making yoga pants.
Mm-hmm.
And they do make other things now. And I'm going to point out that the more things Lululemon makes, the worse their business is becoming.
Yeah, they're really struggling to support all these different lines.
Yes, the same thing happened to Nike.
Yeah.
Nike right now is in financial trouble.
Mm.
And the reason is, one, they got involved in politics, and they shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Two, they decided they were going to start to get involved in virtual reality games, and they were going to get involved in all these areas that didn't include shoes. They were going to make clothing. They were going to do all these things, and they gave up making the most innovative shoe.
Yeah.
And then brands like Hoka and Brooks and Adidas, which was actually an old brand,
Yeah.
came along and started stealing their market share.
Yeah.
Because they started making more innovation.
Yeah.
And now Nike is back struggling to come up with shoes that people want to buy. And you remember, Justin, I mean, it wasn't that long ago where, kids were practically, killing each other for Nike shoes.
Oh my gosh, especially when Jordan,
Right. You had to have the latest Jordan Air 1s.
Yeah. It had to, right? It was a need. It wasn't even a want.
Right. And huge prices and huge premiums on them. So don't try to be everything to everybody. Next one. Never be a Me Too product.
Oh gosh. This is critical.
So the idea here, folks, is let me explain something to you. If we look at the numbers right now where you have inflation, you have economic uncertainty, what do we see selling? What we see selling is the premium items, the branded items who have unique attributes and have built a brand. and store brand.
Mm-hmm.
The market has bifurcated. And what that means is I go to the grocery store and there are certain things that I'm not willing to compromise on. So it might be, if I'm grocery shopping, it might be I want Bob Evans mashed potatoes, or I want
Right.
Rice-A-Roni rice.
Right.
But these are brands that I'm going to pay a little more for. So I will say, okay, I'll get the store brand asparagus. I'll get the store brand canned tomatoes. I'll buy the store brand this and the store brand that so that I can buy the Botticelli pasta sauce. I'm making decisions between savings and brands.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't do is buy the one in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's nothing. It's neither the lowest price nor it is the most innovative or best product.
It is purgatory. That's what that is for brands.
Me Too products sit in the middle. The same as pricing strategy. Being priced in the middle is the same problem.
It's awful.
You've got a category. Typically, the difference between the bottom product in a category and the top product is 10x.
Yeah.
So in most categories, you'll have a $2 product and a $20 product, or a $1.50 product and a $15 product. Being in the middle is suicide, except there is an exception. The exception is if you have a product, and I'm going to give you an example, Salon Graphics. So Salon Graphics, the hairspray, now what they did is they literally made their product in the same factory with the same formula in the same can as Sebastian hairspray,
Mm-hmm.
which at the time was $15 to $20. They then went to market at $10, $12, still a premium versus the $1.50 hairspray, with the market position, we're the exact same product that you buy in the salon, but you can get us in retail.
Yes.
So in this particular case, what they did is they took products that are not in retail, who are high priced and have panache, and turned it into a mass market product.
Right.
But from a mass market status, they were still the highest price.
Right. So they essentially took the strategy of private label. They just aimed at the highest point in the marketplace and said, hey, we're a few points less. So you're getting the same stuff here just for a few dollars less. It's that what you see in e-commerce a lot, and especially in the social space, the dupe, right? Here's the dupe for X, because and really the whole strategy is, hey, it's the same stuff. It's just slightly cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you look at the bottom of the market to the top of the market, the top product's usually 10x more than the bottom one,
Yep.
but the cost to make the top product is 4x.
Exactly.
So where do you want to live? I want to live in a world where I've got a 10x margin at a 4x cost.
Every day.
Not only do I have more profitability, I now have the ability to market and advertise because I have it in my budget.
Right. But in order to do that, you have to ensure that you have checked off the rules that we just talked about previously. If you haven't, that will never work.
Next one, make products that fit into one of the 3 levers of retail expansion.
Well, what are the 3 levers, Mark?
Well, Justin, I'm glad you asked that. So here's what it is, folks. When we go to Amazon, Amazon has unlimited capabilities. And the reason is because they just have to find space in a warehouse, and getting more warehouse space isn't difficult.
Yeah.
When you're Walmart, you can't just bolt on another metal building on the back of your Walmart store.
Right. You have limited shelf space.
You're in the middle of a city.
Right.
You are limited. A super Walmart has 148,000 SKUs. There is no room for 149,000 SKUs.
Right.
So when we want to be in a Walmart or Walgreens, Target, whatever the case is, every inch of the store is accounted for, which means for your new product to go in, someone else's product has to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want you to put yourself in the mind of the buyer. You work at one of these big mass retailers. You're the buyer. You have a product category with 60 items, 60 selections in your category. This is what we call it, your selection. You have 60 items in your selection.
Right.
You know to the penny, pardon me, you know to the penny what each item makes you. You know what it made you per year, per quarter, per month, per week, per day.
Mm-hmm.
I come along and I say, I've got a new one. I'm the buyer. I'm going to say, prove to me you're going to make me more money.
That is the only question you have to be able to answer.
Because I don't care if your product's better.
Doesn't matter to me.
I don't care if your packaging's cooler. I don't care if you're doing a great job on Amazon. Because guess what? Your Amazon customers aren't coming to my store.
Right. They're buying on Amazon.
Correct. Who I consider a competitor.
Right. Because it is a different shopping experience, which attracts a different customer.
So convince me that you're going to sell more than what I have. So the three levers we can pull on, Justin, is simply this. Lever one, increase profitability.
Okay.
Increased profitability means I'm going to get people buying who currently buy $3 pasta sauce to upgrade to $5 pasta sauce. That means you, Walmart, pick up an extra $2 gross on each jar that went out the door, and Walmart's making 36 points on that. So you, Walmart, will make another 80 cents, 75 to 80 cents on every jar that goes out the door of my product versus Ragu.
Right.
Now, I still need to convince you that I can get people to do that.
Right. Right.
So that's the second issue. How do I convince you that I can do that? Well, I can convince you I can do that by here's my marketing and advertising program. And I want everybody to keep this in mind because we see it all day long. Don't go in the buyer and say, oh, look, I have 10 influencers and we have a Facebook page and we have 10,000 people on Instagram. They're not going to a retailer.
Nope.
If they're going to buy, they're going to buy off your website or they're going to buy off Amazon or even Walmart.com. They're not going to the retailer. Don't care.
Right. In most categories, that is the truth, and it has maintained the truth. There are, of course, exceptions, but in almost every case, it's not going to work.
So that's the one lever. I can get you more gross.
Yes.
And I can prove to you that I can bring the traffic to the store. Mm-hmm. The second lever is I can bring more people to that shelf, which means
volume.
I can increase volume. So how do I increase volume? Well, here's an example. Example is I come up with a new energy drink, but my new energy drink is aimed at people 55 plus.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the buyer. I'm going to say, well, my current energy drink customer base is 35 down.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could really bring 45 or 55-year-olds to the energy drink space, then yes, I could sell more energy drinks to more people.
And this is also an example of the third lever as well. That example plays too, but I'm not going to give that away just yet.
And this is an example of the 4 mores that hang on the wall in our office.
Mm-hmm.
If you were in our office, folks, you would see a sign on the wall that says, we help our clients sell more product, volume, to more people, reach, more often, repetition, for more money, higher price.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we do. This is actually what you do.
Exactly.
Now let's get to the third lever. The third lever is what we call category expander. Category expander is customers currently come in and buy one item. Now they'll walk out with 2 items. So
Give me an example.
Yes, the classic category expander goes back to before you were born, and it goes back to something called cream rinse, which is now called hair conditioner.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be when I was just a child, every ad on TV for hair care was a shampoo.
Mm-hmm.
You had Breck and Pearl and all these all these different ones. And then the invention came up of cream rinse.
Ooh.
After a woman washes her hair, she needs to put this rinse in to make it soft and manageable, which again eventually became called conditioner.
Right.
Now, instead of her coming to the store and buying 1 bottle of shampoo, she walks out with 2 bottles. Okay. Mouthwash to toothpaste is that same kind of environment. So basically, if you're a companion sale, now you're a category expander, because if I don't carry that line of companions, now all of a sudden I can get people to walk out with more than 1 item.
Mm-hmm.
We see a lot of this in hair care. We see a lot of it in skin care.
Yeah.
In skincare, you've got the body lotion versus the face lotion versus the eye serum.
Right.
Versus the neck serum.
Right.
So, and you kind of get the point. Oh my goodness, I can walk out of here with 4 different skin products.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now you're seeing it in deodorant, right? Excuse me. Deodorant used to just be armpits.
Right.
Now you see all these products coming out with, now it's the body deodorant, it's the spray. So now you need that for your armpits, but then back your legs or wherever there's odor.
Yes.
Right?
Now they're telling you have to spray down your nether regions.
Exactly.
Which I think those commercials sound terrible, because it says it lasts better for 72 hours than soap and water. And I'm like, oh, you're not showering for 72 hours because you're plastering this stuff on you?
It's not recommended.
It's like when we did the research on toothpaste and we find out that 96% of Americans buy toothbrushes. And it's like, oh my God, who's this other 4%?
Right.
So there's our 3 levels. Let's get to the next one. Never make products that can't be described in 1 sentence.
I love this one. And if you could, tell your story. Tell where this originated from, because I think it's a pretty impactful story.
So this originated when my dear friend, now deceased Chuck Woolery, and I were pitching a television show to NBC. And the show at the time was called Next Big Thing. It eventually was called Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. And Chuck, who's been in television forever, he's had more hit television shows than probably anybody in Hollywood. And I was working with him and actually another old friend by the name of Bernie Brillstein. And Bernie Brillstein is actually, if you ever saw the Muppets, there's 2 old curmudgeon Muppets that sit on the balcony and criticize everything.
Yeah.
Bernie was the Muppet on the left. Because he actually was. Because Bernie was the manager for every person from Lorne Michaels on down, for every person who's ever been on Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
And he was Jim Henson's manager.
Yeah.
So Jim Henson actually modeled the curmudgeon after Bernie. And if you're in Bernie's office, I can see it in my head, there's this glass case under the window in Bernie's office with that Muppet propped up in that glass case. So at any rate, they were teaching me how to pitch a television show. Okay. And what Chuck had said to me was, never make a television show that you can't explain in 1 sentence. Because I, not coming from television, was trying to write copy on how to explain this show to NBC. And Chuck's like, no, you've already lost him. And Chuck's comment was, you're talking to idiots who have no vision. You have to be able to tell them this in 1 sentence. That was literally his comment. So his comment was Wheel of Fortune, his first big national show.
Yeah.
Contestants play a game of hangman with a spinning wheel for money.
Which is exactly what it is.
Right?
I get it.
That's how you describe the show. Jeopardy. Contestants guess the question to answers for money.
Yep.
That's the show.
That's the show.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to describe it in one sentence. Well, when Chuck taught me that, it started occurring to me, well, wait a minute. This applies to our business too.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that I can't have additional ad copy to talk about the features and benefits and the attributes. But what it does mean is if I can't tell you what it does in a sentence, you've lost me.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go back to the people that we met with recently that made this super technical, wonderful product.
Yeah.
They couldn't tell us what it did in 4 paragraphs.
No. I mean, it took them almost 5 minutes straight, and we're still looking at them like, huh?
It took a PowerPoint deck.
Right.
Right? They
Yeah,
needed a PowerPoint deck to tell us what it was.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I'm just sitting there the whole time going, when are we going to get to the point?
So make products that can be described in one sentence. I make a premium line of hair fixatives and hairsprays.
Okay.
I make a product that resolves toenail fungus.
Right.
I make a product that relieves the pain of painful hemorrhoids.
Right.
Okay, I'm the buyer. Got it. I know what you do.
Okay. On to the next.
And the consumer knows what you do. I saw a commercial last night, and I had to see 3 of them to finally figure out what it was.
Mm.
It was a commercial for this robotic pool cleaner. But it started with some golf pro talking about how great the technology was and never showed the device and never said what the name of it was.
I mean, I own one, so it's pretty simple to describe what that is.
Right. To say an automated robotic pool cleaner, okay, I know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, when I finally figured it out, I'm like, wow, that's really a cool product. But they were just missing the boat.
Yeah.
Because they have a golf pro wearing a golf pro shirt telling me about it. And I think he's talking about a golf club.
Right. I mean, what else would he be talking about?
Because he's plastered with golf logos all over his shirt.
Yeah.
So describe your product in one sentence. Done. Next one. Mass retail needs products that appeal to the masses.
Man, how many times have we met with inventors, great people, right, that have come up with these wonderful products that really can help people, but we look at them and say, guys, your market size is less than 1%.
Right, because you solved a problem for yourself.
Right.
Which most great products do solve a problem for the inventor.
Absolutely.
I remember a delightful woman who brought me a product to look at. And she made a product that you put on picture frames.
I remember this.
To stop the picture frame from falling down.
Yep, I remember this.
It worked.
Yeah.
The problem was, A, where in the store does it sit? Because no one's going to the store to look for a picture frame stop from falling downer product.
Right.
Because nobody knows it exists. 2, the product is worth $1, which means you can't spend money to tell people that such a product exists. And 3, how many people identify that as a problem or a need?
Right. Right.
Now, I'm actually at our condo in Clearwater right now, and I'm looking around, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I can see 7 picture frames right from where I'm sitting.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are falling down. None of them are a problem.
Right.
I don't know. Have you ever had a problem with a picture frame that keeps sliding down?
No, and if it was, I got a new picture frame.
So, solved a problem but didn't solve a problem for enough people. When we're talking about mass retail, think about, let's use the mindset of a funnel. The top of the funnel being America at large,
Yeah.
or what we would call an index of 100. It's the entire nation.
Yeah.
Walmart wants products that are either at the very top of that funnel or maybe 4 inches down in that funnel, 3 or 4
Right.
inches down.
Right.
Okay, so men's clothes is halfway down because they're not for women, and women's
Right.
clothes are not for men, and children's clothes are down the funnel a little further, but they're mass numbers of people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a little further down the funnel, we get your Home Depots, your Lowe's, your Tractor Supplies,
Mm-hmm.
your Ace Hardwares. A little further down the funnel, Vitacost and GNC.
Right.
So there is a taper to the funnel where there are certain players that we'll call big box or mass. But the further away we get from the top, the less volume we can do.
Yes. Yes.
Even if our product belongs in Home Depot, that is not the volume of a Walmart.
Right. And then even further, like you talked about, because we met with I think it was 2 years ago, if you remember, there was this really great item that this contractor invented.
Yep.
Really great item, right?
Wonderful tool.
It was a wonderful tool. And he was telling us, I want to get this in Menards and Home Depot. And we had to tell him, the reality is this is a beautiful tool for the contractors, but that's not enough people that shop those stores.
Nope.
And your product's so big that there's no way for the retailer to make up the money that they would require for this space because of the amount of individuals that are actually in the market to buy this item. I'm sorry, it's just never going to happen.
And there's not enough people in the category to afford to go out and advertise it.
Exactly.
So stick to the top of the funnel.
And I think that's another great point you just made really quick, is that if you don't have the mass appeal, then you also don't have the ability to potentially draft off of competitor advertising that are at least creating the awareness for the category for you to step in.
Let's go to our next one. It doesn't matter what your product can do. It only matters what you are allowed to say it can do.
Oh my gosh.
Now, this one is this all day.
This is a tough one.
So what are we saying here, folks? We're saying that you just came up with a new supplement that makes people's memory better.
Yeah.
Okay. You may be telling the truth.
Yeah.
You may have made a supplement that makes people's memory better. However, if it doesn't have a drug monograph, then the FDA and the FTC are going to say you can't say that.
Mm-hmm. So now you can't tell people that it does it.
Right. So it doesn't matter what your product does. It matters what will the law allow you to say it does.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. Our client HelioCare.
Mm-hmm.
Our client HelioCare has over 40 studies that shows that HelioCare, and I can say this because I'm not selling it.
Right.
I'm not selling it on this show. HelioCare mops up basal cell carcinoma.
It's amazing.
As their ad agency, we can never say that because that is what's called a drug claim. Mm-hmm. I'm now making a claim like a chemotherapy. So we can't tell anybody that. Now, by the way, in Spain, they have billboards that says, fight basal cell carcinoma. They literally have billboards that says, fight cancer, take HelioCare.
Right.
Not hard to sell.
That's pretty easy.
Right. Let's go to our next one. Never be the low price leader, be the most expensive in your category. And we kind of covered that one earlier. And that is, first off, you can't be the low price leader because somebody in China is just going to beat you or a private label is going to beat you. You can't be the low price leader.
No, if you are successful, your retailer most likely is going to rip you off, and they have better margin and they can do it. So it's no way. You can't win that.
And as we've already discussed, there is no future being in the middle.
Exactly.
That's just the dead zone.
It's death by a thousand paper cuts.
So make a better product, have innovation, do something the other products can't do, be at the top of the game. Our client, WaxRx,
Yep.
earwax cleaner. People may have seen it. We're on Fox News all the time with it. $40 kit for cleaning ears. The rest of the products in the category are $8.99.
Yeah.
WaxRx is the number one selling earwax cleaner in America
Right.
because it has innovation and it is bigger and better and has more things than all the other brands. So when you look at the other brands, you get this little tiny box. You look at WaxRx, you get a big box because it's better. It's more stuff. It solves a problem. But I will tell you that nobody buys the $40 brand until they bought the $8.99 brand and it failed.
Yep.
Nobody makes the $40 one their first choice.
No, not right away.
Right. So gets back to like the car comparison. So we can say everyone with an earwax product or earwax problem is a candidate for an earwax cleaner. But now the subset is the people who are candidates for WaxRx are people who have tried other solutions and failed, which means it's further down the funnel. It's a smaller group of people, but we have the margin to be able to do it. We've got the dollar volume, and the number of people that fail at the other products is still there. Next one, never have less than a 5-1 margin.
And this also gets back a little bit to our previous point, which is if you are the most expensive in the category, you are giving yourself the opportunity to have more margin, which means you can do things that those other products cannot do.
So I had a gentleman presented a protein bar to me last week.
Mm-hmm.
He may be listening, and so I'm not saying anything. I'm not using his name. But I had a meeting with him, and the first thing I asked him was, what's your profit margin? Well, his profit margin is 2-1. He's got a 50% margin. And I immediately told him, you're done. You can't survive.
Won't work.
And he said, well, it cost me $1.25 to make one or $1.50 to make one. I'm like, well, then you have a $7.50 protein bar, which is going to be really hard to sell.
Yes, exactly.
And I even agreed we could probably sell a $5 protein bar.
Right.
Because the category is $2, $2 and $3.
Right. Doing the price elasticity practice and work is critical to pricing your product regardless of your margin, but
right.
The margin has to be there.
Right. So 5 would make him a premium.
Right.
But I had to go back to him and say, you need to go spend all your time on lowering your cost of manufacturing.
Right. Well, because we've done this with a lot of clients that come in here. This is usually one of the first exercises like you're talking about. Because even if you're talking about mass retail, you're losing 35 to 45 points depending on the retailer because that's the margin they're going to want, right? You're losing 5% to your broker right off the top. That's done. Then you have to account for your manufacturing and logistics for shipping purposes are probably going to go up because you have to start leveraging a 3PL that is able to work with the retailers and have EDI systems set up. And most newer brands, they don't need it, so they don't have that ability. So you have to go acquire that ability, which are costs you have to make sure that you account for.
And you're borrowing money to carry those receivables.
Exactly.
And now you need 15 to 25% off the top to go advertise it.
Right, because if you don't have that momentum and that messaging power behind it, it's never going to move off the shelf. So you have to account for that.
Right. So this is why you have to have the margins. Let's get to the last two. The next one is success. One successful item is better than 10 mediocre products.
Oh my gosh.
And this is easy, folks. You start off in brick and mortar. For the most part, you start off with one item, and that one item needs to be the hero product, and it needs to be the product that sells the most.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have one hero product, they will come back and ask you for more products.
Absolutely, because you're doing well.
But however, and this ties into the next unbreakable law, so I'm going to put these together.
Okay.
The next unbreakable law is, first one is one successful item is better than 10 mediocre products. And the next law is don't cannibalize your own hero product. What that means is simply this. I have an energy shot.
Yeah.
and my energy shot is a lemonade flavored energy shot,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes a hero item. So now I go back and say, well, now I have it in grape and cherry and blackberry.
Mm-hmm.
I may have just made 4 losing products
Right.
because if I didn't 4x the sales, all I did was take all of my people who buy lemonade and I got them to take different flavors throughout the week.
Right. You have to ensure anytime you're doing any type of expansion from an SKU perspective, you have to ensure one of two things. It is either a companion product, like we talked about earlier, to your own product, so therefore getting someone to buy 2 instead of 1, or you're reaching a different customer with this other product. That's key. You have to make sure it's doing one of those two things.
Or you can expand your indications.
Right.
So an example of that would be you make a cough syrup, and now you make a cough syrup that also treats allergies.
Right.
And now you make a cough syrup that also treats runny nose and sore throat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're expanding indications,
Yes.
which means, okay, I've got a sore throat and runny nose. This is the one for me. I don't have a cough.
Right.
We
Right.
didn't lose our cough customer because our cough customer is still buying the cough syrup.
Right. If anything, because your other product worked, now depending on what their indication or disease at the point, they trust the brands. They're saying, "Oh, well, that's the obvious choice now."
Right. I'm leveraging the brand. Bob Evans making mashed potatoes and then mac and cheese.
Right.
Mac and cheese are not mashed potatoes, but they look they come in the same container, sit in the same part of the cooler.
Yes.
And then Bob Evans having, asparagus or broccoli au gratin
Right.
in the same container. It's a companion item because I can serve a steak with potatoes and broccoli.
Right. Exactly.
I can buy them all
Mm-hmm.
because my experience with the potatoes has been so positive that I now believe my experience with the mac and cheese and the asparagus and all the other things they're making, I now believe my experience will also be good with that.
Right. This is a huge, well, I'll say issue with a lot of the clients that we've worked with, especially as it relates to consumables like you're talking about now. Right. How many times have we seen within the oral care category, especially in mouthwash? Well, great. I'm going to create now. I have it in mint and I have it in this and I have it in this. So yeah, I'm going to go put all these 3 out there. And it's like, well, you'll be lucky if 2 of those survive now.
You just broke up your audience.
Yeah.
Now, if you had evidence that there's this 20% of the market who's allergic to lemonade and won't buy your lemonade shot, but they will buy grape,
Right.
okay, you've expanded your client base. But if
Yes.
you're just saying, hey, why don't you take a break from lemonade and try grape tomorrow, you're just diluting your sales.
Agreed.
And the reason that's a problem is because now the retailer is saying, so I used to make $5 million off of you for 1 slot, and now I'm making $5 million off of you for 3 slots, which means I'm really only making $1.60 on each item you have, and my threshold's $2.5 million.
Right.
So now I'm either going to get rid of all of your product, or I'm going to cut you back to 1, and I'm going to ship back all the stuff that didn't sell. Unfortunately, sometimes the entire line gets cut.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is something else that we talk about too, is for anyone who doesn't have experience in mass retail, you got to understand that your buyers are usually shifting categories every couple years. So
Frequently.
Right. So if you're running into a situation where you had a buyer that was passionate about the product, you had great relationships with them, and all of a sudden now you have this situation that you're talking about, Mark, where all of a sudden there's 3 spots making the same amount of money as 1 spot, and it's a new buyer, they're going to say, why are you here?
Right, because that buyer doesn't even have the history that you used to be a home run.
Right. All I see is that you're making me a lot less money now, and you now have to convince me that you should survive at all.
Right. And guess what happened? Somebody else like us came in and said, look, I have a new product over here and I can show you that I can outsell one of these.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you've got a target on your back now that you created.
Absolutely. All right. So that's it for the product side of our Unbreakable rules. On the next show, we're going to do investment strategies.
Yeah, this is exciting stuff.
And I'm hoping you folks here are on board with this. And the reason is because I promise you, if you break these rules, you're going to struggle.
Yes.
If you follow all these rules, you'll make it.
Yeah, you're hedging your bets exponentially.
Well, if you follow every rule here, you will make it.
Yeah.
You
You're
absolutely will have a successful product.
there's no way not to. And that's what we've talked about before, just bringing it back around to wrap this up is I want everyone to understand whether you're currently in retail, you're not in retail, thinking about retail, is remembering that right now the projections for the retail marketplace in the US for 2025 is 7.5 trillion. Okay, so that's all of retail, including e-commerce. 80% of that is still happening in brick and mortar.
That's correct. That's the big
So
pond.
so what we're trying to do and the reason why we're doing this show and everything that we do is to help every entrepreneur, every business that's out there that has aspirational goals and bigger visions for their business and their lives. Mass retail is the key. So we're trying to give you the cheat codes. That's what we're doing here. We're giving you the cheat codes so that you can go and make those fortunes and create that vision for your life because it is a, for lack of a better term, very complex and dangerous environment, but it is the greatest place to be if you have a CPG product.
Amazon and digital sales, your best hope is to become a big fish in the small pond.
Yes.
In brick and mortar, you have the opportunity to become a big fish in a big pond.
Mm-hmm.
And like most brands, you're looking for a liquidity event. Eventually,
Right.
you want to sell your company. Your company will bring multiples more money if it is in retail than it is in Amazon. And
The
here's the
the
reason. When I go to buy a company, if I look at your product and I'm going to buy your company, I'm giving you zero value based on the fact you're on Amazon because I can get on Amazon by the end of today.
right.
So I don't need you to get me on Amazon. When I come to buy your company and I see that you have product in 50,000 doors, I can't go make that happen. I'm
Mm-hmm.
literally paying you millions of dollars for your brand. Forget anything about the brand. I'm paying you millions of dollars for the shelf space that you managed to earn.
For those vendor IDs alone.
I'm paying you millions of dollars for those square inches that you managed to get in all those retailers. I pay you nothing for being on Amazon because I don't need you to get me on Amazon.
No. And you got to think about it, right? Even the fast track. So let's say you do everything perfectly from the start to the finish. To getting your product from being on Amazon or in e-commerce into, let's just say, the big seven, big six, right, of retail, mass retail, that generally takes brands minimum 3 years, usually some closer to 5, to do that. So I'm paying you for all of that work because I can't do it tomorrow. It's not going to happen. It's not possible to do it.
All right. That's it for today, folks. So if you enjoyed today's podcast, please go to wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. If you're not currently subscribed, click the little subscribe button. Of course, you can also see the podcast on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you just have a desire to see my McLaren shirt I'm wearing today, never know. Where are we going to put the entire list? Where will the list live where people can get an entire copy of the list?
Absolutely. So definitely. So once we get done with the series, so we'll go ahead and we'll make sure under each episode we'll have the list for that episode. So we'll have that on there, and then once we're done, we'll make sure that we get it featured on the CPG Insiders website.
All right. That's it for today. We'll see you on the next episode of CPG Insiders. All right. If you're looking to greatly increase sales on your CPG product, don't hesitate to contact us at Jekyll & Hyde Advertising and Marketing. By the way, the only advertising agency with a guaranteed result. Just go to jekyllhydeagency.com or feel free to give us a call at 800-500-4210.